I have long been passionate about what's called direct democracy, but I sometimes have difficulty convincing fellow parliamentarians that we should let go of some of our power as elected representatives. But let me have a go at explaining some of the things to do with direct democracy that perhaps have an interface with European issues and with Europe at the moment. I think it's interesting that over the last week we have sort of 3 different proposals for a referendum to do with European issues floating about in the UK. So we have the idea of a referendum on in or out of Europe, the idea of a referendum on the new reform treaty, and the idea that some of us quite fancy of a referendum on whether or not the UK should be able to opt out of a number of chunks of Europe. It's confused, it's messy. Why is it messy? Because in this country we have absolutely no system, no mechanism, no tradition of dealing with referendums or how to get a referendum on the table. And that's part of the problem that we need to address. People want to have a choice, they want to have a debate, but at the moment we have no mechanism, probably because we have no constitution, to get a debate on the table, to get a question on the table. We're left in the hands of the government of the day as to whether or not they want a referendum and what a referendum might be about. So people have no options or possibilities available to them. And that, I think, creates in our country, in our democracy, a sense of frustration, a sense of powerlessness, which is part of the whole disconnect we have at the moment between citizens and politicians, or sort of both sitting on different sides of the fence and people unable really to get their message across. Now, we have a lot of chatter about petitions and petition power, but to me, petitions, they're great, but they're negative. You petition, you sort of go cap in hand, you want to put something right. It's a rather negative thing, rather than if you can take an initiative about something, that's positive. It's the idea of actually getting a positive proposal on the table of Parliament or government, rather than, as I say, going rather cap in hand with a petition. Now, the only excellent or developed model of direct democracy, in other words, people having the right of initiative that we see in Europe at the moment, although not in the European Union, is the Swiss model. But it's been developed over years, so of course they have a highly sophisticated tradition. Some people will say to you, even when you mention the Swiss model, oh, but it produces regressive things like women didn't get the vote until very late, or all sorts of horrible things might happen. But you think about what the Swiss have achieved with regard to Europe. In the last year, they have had 3 national referendums. They voted to incorporate Schengen, which the UK doesn't belong to. They voted to have freedom of movement, so an immigration question. And they voted to make a financial contribution to the enlargement countries. Now, I wonder, any of those votes in the UK would, I suspect, not have got a yes answer, because we don't have the tradition of public debate, of democracy in that way. But if you go to a system that's at ease with having that discussion, it's much simpler, and you can bring people with you as you try to tackle change. The average Swiss citizen knows a great deal more about the European Union and European Union affairs than does the average British citizen, although of course the Swiss are not members. But it's because of direct democracy, because of being used to having debate, that they've been able to achieve that. What worries me about many of the ideas that are circulating now in our country is that they will lead to further frustration, and it worries me about our own party. I don't want the Liberal Democrats to be a party that is just talking about consultation and focus groups. In other words, more ways of asking people questions, but not allowing people to formulate the questions for themselves and to actually, as I say, finally make the decision themselves. The beauty of citizens being able to get an initiative by way of so many signatures, get a referendum, and then debate and discuss and make a decision is that that is putting real power in the hands of citizens, educated citizens, and we're the party that always talks about education, and it's all part of the same continuum. Sometimes you'll get a no. Of course, sometimes people won't give you the yes answer that you want to something. Democracy can become inconvenient, but even if you get a no, what you will have done is you will have progressed the public debate. In Switzerland, sometimes they will have tackled an issue through initiative and referendum process. They won't get a no in the first referendum, they won't get a yes in the first referendum, but they may, as a result of having gone through that public debate, get a lesser proposal, which still takes the issue forward in a positive way. Now, the European Union is often condemned as having a democratic deficit. In that reform treaty that we may or may not have a referendum on, there is a right of initiative Europe-wide. That means that 1 million European citizens signing a petition or an initiative can come to the European Commission and say, we want a European law on this issue, please. And the Commission is bound to treat it seriously and properly and respond. Of course, they can't come with absolutely crackpot ideas. They've got to be ideas that would fit within the treaties, that where we can have legislation at a European level. So it's not a way to bring back hanging or flogging or anything nasty. It's a way of doing things that we could do correctly at European level. But it allows Europe's citizens to start a conversation together on an issue close to their heart and to get it on the legislature's table. And I think that is really brave of Europe to be prepared to go down that path. Let's finish on this note. Some of my fellow MEPs are worried about this. They think that these rights should only reside with elected parliamentarians. I think as parliamentarians we have got to be prepared to share power. It has to be a dialogue. We've got to work together to get real participatory democracy, so that direct democracy and representative democracy work hand in hand. And you know, somebody did some surveys, and I think it was mentioned in The Independent during the course of this week, that where there are greater elements of direct democracy in a country, people are happier. People are happier because they are able to participate much more directly in their political system, able to feel that they are able to make decisions on the things that really affect them. So it seems to me we could be in a win-win situation if we're prepared to go down this path and give our citizens much more chance to put things on our table and to make decisions about them directly without always having the politician saying what's best.